Hello, I'm Gemma and this is Non-Fic Books and I have my October wrap-up. This month has been a little bit disappointing on the non-fiction front. I've read one book that I've really enjoyed, DNF'd one book, read another that was disappointing, and then I've got a few on the go. They seem particularly disappointing because I've been doing Victober and all my fiction reading has been really rather fabulous. So the first book that was my DNF is George Mike's How to Be a Brit. This is a collection of 3 essays, the first one of which was published in 1946, and they were all written around that sort of era, and the 3 essays are How to Be an Alien, How to Be Inimitable, and How to Be Decadent. I only read the first essay, and honestly, I don't know whether I've read too many of this sort of books or whether just it in itself was particularly repetitive, but it felt incredibly cliched and incredibly repetitive, and it just didn't grab me very much. I thought it would be a really interesting concept because George Mike's was Hungarian and then moved to the UK, and I thought it would have been a really interesting perspective. And it was to an extent, but it was so full of sort of the English people talk about the weather and queuing and all sorts of stuff like that, and it just wasn't anything new or interesting, so I didn't finish that one. And the next book that I read was better, and that's The Hellfire Clubs, Sex, Satanism and Secret Societies by Evelyn. This was reviewed on Amazon as a very good sort of academic look at the Hellfire Clubs, rather than sort of following the mythology and being really sort of sexy and all that. But the problem with secret societies is that they're secret and that there is very little information. So a lot of this book, and it's not that long, it's only a couple of hundred pages. Yeah, just over 200 pages of actual text. And most of that is filler, because basically the Hellfire Clubs were just not as interesting as all the lovely sort of rumours and current Regency romances would like to make out. Well, lovely, interesting. At first it was young men getting drunk and fighting, and then it was young men getting drunk and making fun of religion, and then it was young men getting drunk and having sex. But it was just young men with too much money and a lot of booze, and so they just weren't as interesting. It's fine if you were needing to use anything as a reference for an academic paper, I'm sure that would be fine, but it just was just a lot of background, so it's a sort of bizarre mix of it's sort of too light for anyone who's really interested in the academia, and it's too backgroundy for anyone who wants the sort of fun, sexy side of secret societies, and so yeah, just quite a miss. Thankfully, the next book really helped pick me up out of this sort of non-fiction lull that I've been having, and that is Defiance, The Life and Choices of Lady Anne Barnard by Stephen Taylor. This is a brilliant book. Lady Anne Barnard was a fascinating 18th century woman from Scotland who moved down to London. There's lots of scandal, there's lots of sort of unusual choices being made, and it's just a fabulous read. Her life is fascinating, Stephen Taylor's writing is brilliant. He has been a journalist and written other books, and this is his first sort of look into the 18th century, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And if you're interested in 18th century women, pick this book up. It's definitely one of the most fun, gripping ones that I have read in quite a while. So that picked me up in my sort of feeling towards reading at the moment, and I've got 3 non-fiction books currently on the go that I am going to try and finish quite quickly, but obviously non-fiction November will be a very heavy month and I already have my TBR for that, so these books may be read a little bit more slowly. And the first one is David Waller's The Magnificent Mrs Tennant. This is a Victorian lady hostess, and again it's one of those sort of fascinating historical women, which is about my favourite thing to read about. I am only about a third of the way through so far, and her life is really interesting. She's living in France at the moment and interacting with the Flauberts, so far so good, and I have high hopes of that being another excellent read. One that I was trying to read in October to sort of tie in with Victober is Every Girl's Duty by Alice Mills, and that's the diary of a Victorian debutante edited with a commentary by Maggy Parsons. If this is genuine, and I haven't seen any sort of evidence that it isn't, she is fantastic. She is snarky, she's arrogant, she's so much fun, and she is totally not what you would expect a young, innocent Victorian Deb to be like. And this is just sort of extracts of her diary interspersed with commentary. So you sort of have these lovely illustrations, a bit of commentary, and then the text from her diary. And so far, this is absolutely fascinating, and I would be very, very sad to find out that this diary isn't exactly true, because I'm really enjoying it, and I am loving seeing into the mind of a young girl in the Victorian era from a sort of upper echelon family. The only reason, I have no particular reason to think that this isn't real, but she's just so sort of modern and feisty that it's amazing to me that this could be a Victorian young girl. And then finally, it's a book that I've been reading for absolutely ages, and this is Sophie Campbell's The Season, a summer whirl through the English social season. This book, I don't know whether I'm going to finish. Some bits are good, some bits aren't, and it's just flagging for me at the minute. I'm definitely going to read the next chapter because that's all on Grande, and that should be really interesting. But so far we've done the Chelsea Flower Show and Cheltenham and a couple of other races. Yeah, it's meant to be sort of an outsider's look on the season and how this is still a thing these days, but it's not doing it for me at the moment. It's neither interesting enough, funny enough, or sort of saying anything new for it to be grabbing me at the moment. So this could be a disappointing read coming up for next month. So those are the non-fiction books that I read in November. Quite a sort of November? It's not even November yet, in October. And yeah, a bit of a slumpy reading month, but I really, really do recommend Defiance. It is a really fabulous book. This woman's brilliant. I now have a list of other women that I want to go and read about, and I'm hoping that Stephen Taylor does come back and do some more 18th century books, because his writing is thoroughly enjoyable. If you've read anything interesting, please leave me a comment down below, and hopefully I will see you in November for Non-Fiction November. Bye!